What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Jake Shavink here. And yes, it's finally the month of the NFL draft. Home stretch. We're approaching it. So for the Green Bay Packers, that means all the needs, they're out there on the table. We know where the Green Bay Packers are going to go in the NFL draft. The question is when. Obviously, the hot topic, the cornerback position, where we feel like the Green Bay Packers just don't have a full room. Obviously, they brought back Kevin King for a one-year deal. That probably doesn't please a lot of Packers fans, but it's more of a stopgap, more of insurance for the Packers to make sure they have depth of the position. Obviously, they're going to draft a corner in the 2021 NFL draft. There's no doubt about it. But obviously, King is there in case, he needs to be the starter, and it's tough to acclimate, as a rookie. One of the tougher positions to play in the NFL. So really that begs the question, will the Packers double dip at the position in order to fill out that cornerback room? Well, first, I think we have to dive in really to the cornerback room itself, and then we'll kind of talk about, is that the right call to double dip at the position? And then, maybe we got some fun at the end, talk about some duos the Packers could select. So let's first look at the current corner room for the Packers. This is pretty simple. Jair Alexander, the extension's incoming a couple of years down the road. He's going to get top dollar for the position. He's been excellent and a slam dunk pick for Brian Gutekunst in his first year as the GM in the draft. Absolutely nailed that pick. Obviously for Josh Jackson and Chandon Sullivan, both free agents in 2022. Josh Jackson's really never found footing in the Packers defense, no matter, wherever they put him, nickel, safety. He never found a way to get really involved, be productive in Mike Pettine's defense. Now, obviously, Joe Barry coming in. Could that change? Maybe. But ultimately, I think he needs a new situation, and hopefully he can be successful somewhere else in 2022. Chandon Sullivan had a great 2019. Really played well at the nickel position. Kind of slid off the table a little bit there in 2020. Maybe he bounces back, maybe not. But ultimately, we'll know whether or not Sullivan is in the future by probably mid-season. Kevin King, we talked about one-year prove-it deal really for him. This is insurance. It's a really run-it-back type of move. Kadar Hallman, obviously also in the room. He's got nickel potential. Obviously, he was one of Pettine's favorites at the position. But I don't see Hallman really being the future of the position, especially at nickel. I know Joe Barry has talked about really wanting to nail down the nickel position with an effective player, with a versatile playmaker. Obviously, Kavari Russell, Stanford Samuels III, and Innis Gaines are on the roster. All feel like practice squad players, and maybe all aren't even that by the time we get to cuts and finalizing the roster before the season. So really, what does that mean? I think it means that the room itself clearly isn't where it needs to be. Luckily, obviously, we have the 2021 NFL draft for that. So the Packers, I think, with 10 picks, you have to believe that at least 2 are going to go to the corner position. Obviously, Joe Barry, like we said, mentioned the nickel position a lot in his press conference and in subsequent interviews. So ultimately, we're going to talk more about the corner and nickel positions both when we do the full draft preview for the Packers, which will be coming soon. But now we just want to talk about whether or not 2 corners makes a lot of sense. Obviously, with 10 picks, like we said, I think that's going to be the move. And I think the Packers are going to have a certain ideal type that they want to play corner for the Packers going forward. So we're going to look at a few duos here. But yeah, I think doubling up makes perfect sense. Ultimately, will they go with the route of finding a bigger, longer player like Kevin King, or will they focus maybe on finding a player like Jair Alexander, who has the temperament to play the position? Obviously, isn't the biggest corner, but great cover skills and does a lot of off coverage, man coverage, near the line of scrimmage, is versatile in that way. Maybe they're looking for that type of player. So obviously doubling up makes perfect sense for this team, and it's really about finding the right fits for them. So real quick, let's take a look at a few duos that would be fun to have in Green Bay. So let's start out with my ideal duo at the position. I think this would be a really fun one for Packers fans. Obviously, Greg Newsome's been the darling of, this real pro day circuit, really. So you talk about a player who, has durability concerns, but ultimately great in coverage. He's good in off man. He's good in, press man near the line of scrimmage, and he's good in zone. I think he's got great awareness, great transitional quickness for the position, really great eyes, seeing where the quarterback's looking, keying in on what the quarterback wants to do. Ultimately, really good at turning his hips and working vertically. Stays in receivers' hip pockets. I think he's just an all-around great corner who fits the bill in the first round for the Packers. Now for day 3, I think Thomas Graham would be a great add. Ball production is great. Took the 2020 season off, opted out. 5'10 in the 190s. Almost fits the nickel position to a T. Good loose hips, good match and mirror skills, but maybe just not suited for that perimeter. So to have Newsome and Alexander on the perimeter, maybe Thomas Graham comes in, maybe doesn't start right away, but fills midseason and becomes the long-term nickel solution. This is my ideal duo. Come draft time when all the corners are finished, maybe that changes for now. This seems like a really good start for the Packers if they went this way in the draft. Now here's a fun one. Top tier tape duo. 2 players who maybe don't fit the thresholds size-wise and athleticism-wise for the Packers. Asante Samuel Jr. and Elijah Molden. This is a fun one. This would be a round 1 and probably a day 2, so they're using a lot of draft capital for this duo, but 2 players who have excellent tape, so maybe you throw the numbers out from the pro days. I mean, Asante Samuel Jr. is a good athlete. He's not an elite athlete like the Packers have drafted at the position under Gutekunst so far, but again, great instincts, great keying in the quarterback, click and close is exceptional, and he's physical near the line of scrimmage, great tackler. Molden, same type of player, really operates well near the line of scrimmage, perfect fit for the nickel role, maybe a little undersized, but plays bigger than his size. These are 2 excellent football players on tape that would come in and really reinvigorate that cornerback room. And it's just really fun to think about both of them in green and gold. Now here's a fun little duo. Kevin King has that length and the ball skills, the ability to really shorten windows with his length. And these are 2 players who could do just that if they were both in the green and gold. Iviatu Melifonwu in round 1, guy who's a really good athlete, an elite athlete. Physical at the line of scrimmage, good jamming receivers, got the length, feisty at the catch point. Then a guy like Tay Gowan, who, 6'2", 185, taller, longer, wiry player who maybe is best suited for the nickel position and isn't being talked about enough in this cornerback class. So these 2 players, with an NFC that's got a lot of bigger receivers, that can obviously win against smaller guys. When you think about Mike Evans versus Jair Alexander, you don't like that matchup. Maybe these are 2 guys who can come in and fight for that perimeter spot to really neutralize guys like Evans, like Galladay, like Julio Jones, like Michael Thomas. Bigger, stronger, longer players. These 2 would fit that bill. Another fun one here, the all upside duo. Kelvin Joseph, really good athleticism, really good ball skills, really good hips. Falls for double moves a little bit too much. Obviously, there's off-field issues as well, but the upside is tremendous with him. He'd probably be around a day 2 pick. Robert Rochelle, guy who was down at the Senior Bowl. Struggled maybe a little bit against top competition, but ultimately has a lot of tools to work with, was tested really well, elite athlete. Best football might be ahead of him. Could really, after a couple of years, turn into a really, really good corner. So with these 2, obviously, you may not be looking at immediate contribution, but a couple of years down the road could be excellent players. So this would be the all upside. Take the chance, take the risk, and you may get a high reward. Finally, round it up with a nice little Pac-12 duo. Keith Taylor probably would remind Packers fans of Kevin King, which is maybe not what they want to hear. But again, another taller, longer player who feisty at the catch point, good mover for his size. And then Paulson Adebo, whose ball production is incredible, great at the catch point. His timing is great. He's not late. He doesn't miss time jumps. And he does the dirty work too. He's physical near the line of scrimmage, may be the guy to transition to nickel and be an excellent player at the position. Paulson Adebo should definitely be on the Packers' radar. These 2 would be an interesting duo to bring in to Green Bay. And obviously the Packers' history has showed us they love the West Coast. West Coast scouts definitely have the ear of Goody, definitely had the ear of Thompson. So one of these 2, maybe both of these guys, end up in Green Bay. So obviously, as we wrap this video up, you look at the NFC, you look at guys like Cooper, Lamb, Gallup in Dallas, you look at Samuel and McLaurin in Washington. You got Michael Thomas in New Orleans, Julio, Calvin Ridley in Atlanta, Evans and Godwin in Tampa Bay, even Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel in San Francisco, Woods and Kupp, Van Jefferson in LA, Metcalf and Lockett. The list goes on. Maybe it stops there. No, Jefferson and Thielen's another one. But the NFC is loaded at receiver. The Packers do not solve the cornerback position and trust that they can just run it back. Could probably end up with the same result as we saw in 2020. They need to refill this cornerback room, reload it with top talent. So getting a duo like the ones we showed you would be great for them. So let's hope they do that, and I'm sure they have a plan for it, and it will be exciting to see who they select in the 2021 NFL Draft. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. If you did, maybe throw a like down there. Subscribe if you're new. Like I said, we talked about the corner and the nickel positions. Going to have full breakdowns of those from a Packers perspective coming up before the draft. So I hope you guys stay tuned in for that. And I will see you guys very soon. Farewell.